across Texas. The issue is.
I'm Stephen Dial in Dallas.
I'm Greg Grugan in Houston.
I'm Rudy Koski in Austin, and this is Texas, The Issue Is.
Now, we know there has been a lot of issues to talk about on the domestic side of things, but a lot's going on internationally, especially tensions rising with Russia and China. I talked one-on-one to former ambassador to NATO and former Texas Senator Bailey Hutchison.
It is a time of tension, no question about it. And I think we have to focus more on foreign policy than maybe we have in the last few years.
Ambassador, there's a lot that's been going on in terms of foreign relations with the United States. You have still the fallout from the withdrawal from Afghanistan. We're still talking about Russia and Ukraine, the surveillance balloon from China. How would you rate the nation's foreign policy or foreign relations right now?
We need to much more focus on our foreign policy and especially our deterrence activities. That means a strong defense, investing in defense, showing that when we say we're going to do something, we will do it. And also making sure that our allies are with us, that we are united on the big areas that we will have to face together.
What do you make of the whole Chinese surveillance balloon? One, do you think we should have shot it down while it was over U.S. soil? And two, do you think this could and will continue to make the tensions even bigger between the United States and China?
Well, I think that it would have been better if we had shot it down before it even came into our territory, our lower 48, when it was over the sea in Alaska. But, I also think you can't be you can't be critical when something hasn't happened before. But I do think letting it go all the way across our country and take all the pictures that it was taking was not the right approach. And I think we've learned from it, and I think it won't happen again.
We're relying on China for certain things. China is relying on us, but we're also not friends. What do you make of the current state between the United States and China?
China depends in their domestic economy on trade with the U.S., with the EU, with the Asia Pacific nations. And I think that is going to be our leverage to temper their potential adversarial activities, especially as it regards to Taiwan. And I think we need to build on that as a way to seek a relationship with China, which is not a friendship, but is a relationship that can work.
The war between Russia and Ukraine is still going on. Republicans and Democrats here in the United States have supported funding and aiding Ukraine, but some are starting to get a little fatigued and saying we can't just keep writing a blank check. What do you make of us continuing to assist Ukraine? And does there have to be a kind of a end date to this as far as our continuing to write a check to aid Ukraine?
As we face Russia and then a potential adversary of China, we need the democracies and the strong economies of the world to be with us so that we can temper the activities of China by showing China that it will be too expensive to make a run on Taiwan. And that's what will make a difference to them. So we need to stick with Ukraine as a message to Russia to stop it now. You cannot invade sovereign nations that are your neighbors and get by with it. I think our foreign policy has to stay bipartisan and united with our allies. Those are the key things that will be our strength to build up our defenses so that we deter activities by the despotic nations like Russia, China, Iran, and North Korea. And they need to see strength. It's all that will affect them. Talking isn't going to help. but showing strength of defense and deterrence is what they understand and what will win the deterrence.
And that was the interview with former ambassador to NATO, K. Bailey Hutchison. Greg Grugan, what's your one word?
Stephen, my word is vigilance.
Okay, Rudy Koski.
That's a good word, Greg. I thought you were going to steal mine. I'm going hyphenated. My word, big stick.
Of course, Rudy has to break the rules. The Fox Texas Trio will be back to discuss after this break. The Fox Texas Trio is back to discuss that interview with former ambassador to NATO, K. Bailey Hutchison. Rudy, K. Bailey Hutchison said that the U.S. needs to show strength. Has the country been showing strength under the Biden administration?
You know, she was very diplomatic in her answers, but the answer from most of those who I've spoken to under the Pink Dome here in Austin, especially Republicans, is a resounding no, which is why my word is big stick. There's a general understanding that what's needed is a reboot of the old Teddy Roosevelt policy. You know, be tough, carry a big stick. China's pseudo blockade of Taiwan, Japan buying Russian oil, and the southern border. And those are some huge problems that have got to be addressed.
Greg, also in that interview, we talked about the whole balloon saga. K. Bailey Hutchison going on the record saying it should have been shot down way before it crossed the entire country. Did the length of time it took to shoot it down, did that show weakness, in your opinion, towards China?
Well, I'm going to speak in general. As Senator Hutchison suggested, the Chinese are watching our support of Ukraine and NATO very, very closely on multiple levels. Call it a likely prelude to America's response if and when China moves on Taiwan or any of our allies in the Pacific. I was intrigued by Hutchison's call for peace through strength. I mean, the Chinese now have the largest navy in the world and clearly are building up their military at breakneck speed to prepare for potential confrontation. I agree with the senator that we would be foolish to ignore that warning sign and fail to substantially upgrade our military capability at every level. Remember the arms race that preceded the collapse of the old Soviet Union. Ronald Reagan initiated a massive American buildup, and in that case it worked, creating the communist superpower and kind of cratering it from within. Most importantly, America stayed out of a global shooting war by projecting strength, which is a concept I suspect the Chinese understand and respect. Call me cautious, but lots of smart people believe if we don't make vigilance and substantial preparation a priority, the Chinese will eat our lunch.
That's a big statement. The Biden administration has been challenged in multiple ways, both here in the United States and abroad. Rudy, which issue, which domestic or foreign, do you think will be the biggest hurdle for President Biden if he chooses to run for re-election?
Well, conventional wisdom says domestic, but it's certainly hard to ignore a train wreck, right? But that was the thought process in the last big election. Remember all of the predictions of the red tsunami because voters were mad about high inflation, crashing retirement funds, and the constant recession denials by the White House. Roe v. Wade, that ruling was the wild card then. That issue was a voter mobilizer for the Democrats. I'm hearing rumblings, this culture war that we're seeing, the issues moving through the Texas legislature and in other GOP-led state houses, could be the new voter mobilizer for Democrats. History, guys, mark this, history may already be repeating itself. Look at the Wisconsin Supreme Court flip that just happened for Democrats a few days ago. Chicago electing another progressive mayor. If Republicans are not prepared for another ballot box pushback, and I don't think anger over 2 more Trump indictments will help them, 24 could be another red wave washout.
Greg, quickly, foreign or domestic will be the biggest issue for Biden if he runs for re-election?
Yeah, during a week when gasoline prices surged on news of Saudi production cuts, it's the economy and inflation. If Biden doesn't get a handle on them, he's in trouble.
That's all the time we have, but you can check out this interview or any of our other interviews by going to our station's YouTube channels.
And be sure and check us out on social media.
Next, the issue is Where are all the gun bills, and will any gun measure make it to the governor's desk? We'll see you next week, and don't forget to let us know what you think the issue is.